Everybody, thank you all for tuning in once again. Want to make sure that you all know that we have a website that is going to be coming out, drunkuncleradio.com. Easy as that. Look it up, type it up, press the enter button, see what you find. If you're on your phone, use your thumbs, then type the enter button. It'll pop right up. That's us. Please help us. This is hard. Please.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Junkdrummer TV. I want to be the first to welcome you this 2021 to Junk Uncle Radio on the Junkdrummer TV network. Whether you're watching us on YouTube here on Junkdrummer TV or via Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, whatever you might be listening to us on. This is our first episode back this year, 2021. And how are you guys? What's up?
It's good to see the fellas, man. What's happening?
It is a new year, a new day, and anything is possible. And I mean anything.
Anything is possible.
That's so true.
Why are you giving me the reins to this episode and letting my annoying voice be the voice for this podcast this time around?
Well, first of all, because you don't have an annoying voice. And second of all, if you choose to decide to watch this podcast, you still have made a choice.
Very good.
And this is our Rush episode. And we've all been talking about, and it is the number one thing in all the comments section, is that we have teased Adam Jones's, at this point, how many years?
7.
7-year relationship working with the Holy Triumvirate, the greatest Canadian rock band, much better than Anne Murray, Rush. So that's why, Adam.
That's why. Okay.
Did you know there's an Anne Murray fucking museum?
Of course there is.
Know about the museum.
There has to be.
Well, I mean, if she's Canadian and famous, there's a museum for it.
Is there a Rush museum?
No.
That's what I'm saying. Is there a Voivod museum?
I don't think there's a Gordon Lightfoot museum.
Is there a Tragically Hip museum?
Not a museum.
Would Gordon Lightfoot allow a museum?
It would be so soothing.
I mean,
it'd be the most soothing museum you've ever
He just
been
played
to.
a live stream like 3 weeks ago.
God, he's got to be ancient.
He's like 83.
Adam, you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. You have a very lovely Irish tenor, and you should appreciate that and embrace it. Embrace the Irish tenor.
Boy, negativity has no place in 2021, Adam.
We hope. We hope.
So how was everybody's holiday break?
Drunk.
There was a
Red Dead Redemption 2 and alcohol.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
You
Jim?
would be. Well, you all know how it was. Partially, y'all came over and we had an old beef welly and lots of food and dessert and
greatest meals of my life.
Lots of gin. We drank a lot of Bombay Sapphire.
I meant
a lot of rye.
I meant to holler back at you that Wellington lived a short and wonderful life in my refrigerator before it was devoured for about 2 more meals. So I wanted to thank you and your wife for that. That was an incredible effort and an amazing meal.
We know how we want to figure. What's that?
Well, I was just going to echo what John said. And I brought my leftovers home. Now, I ate on it for a couple of days, but later that night, after re-upping on the little I got back into it, and that beef welly took a hard hit the second time in one day.
I think
what kind of junk food did Chelsea bake? That's what I like. I hear you on the savory. What about them desserts, baby?
She had a cake, and there was a Yule log cake. It had like a ganache in it, and that she rued that. She was pissed at that thing. Because it was so difficult and so involved.
Fucking good is what it was.
But it came out great. It was really had meringue mushrooms, little mushrooms you make out of meringue and all that sort of thing. It was very, very hoity-toity, very pinky out sort of dessert. But it was
like those
very
mushrooms that's on the tree in Ace Ventura when he's like, "Thank you, our continent." Those mushrooms.
It was pinky out, and then we took the opportunity to absolutely shovel it in our mouths.
Yeah.
So it worked out quite well. We did.
Dude, she's killing me on Instagram. Like, I see all that shit, and I'm so far away from you all. Like, there's no way for you to ship that shit to me.
Yeah, there is. We mail it out all the time.
Like, and it'll get like you have a way to package it, and it won't be stale by the time it gets here.
Yeah, we put it in a box, and then we put it in the mail, and it gets to you in a few days, and it's fine.
Okay, fair enough.
Sunnyside Bake Shop.
We'll put Sunnyside Bake Shop in the.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. If we, in case you don't know what we're talking about, Jimmy's lovely wife, and actually another one of our friends, not just his wife, runs a bakery called Sunnyside Bakery, right?
Sunnyside Bake Shop.
Bake Shop.
I think it's Sunnyside Bake Shop TN on Instagram. And
she makes me want to get fat just looking at the pictures that she posts. It's ridiculous.
Well, I lived. Jimmy and Chelsea and I shared a house, a living space for years. And
I crashed on your all's couch so many times.
It was so hard to. I mean, like I go to I go to the gym as much as I can or whatever, but like there's just an added like albatross on your shoulder of having this amazing cook in the house, and you're like, hey, went to the gym today, and I come home and it's like buttered bacon balls. I'm like, goddamn.
It's a constant fight in my life not to have like two chins just like.
This is what Jimmy's up early doing road work.
On a stick.
Jimmy's doing road work early.
Oh yeah. Measuring countertops is what I'm doing.
Well, I suppose we shouldn't delay these commenters any longer, and we can actually start getting into talking about Rush. And maybe we should start with how each of you guys discovered the band. The deep dive into Rush. I don't know. I think, John, maybe you should what was the first time you heard Rush, and what song was it? What did you think about it, etc.?
So I can't tell you what song it was because it was a long time ago. Basically, my older sister Wendy grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and she was by the time I came around in 1981, which was coincidentally the year that Moving Pictures was released in February. I was a couple months later in May, and so that was, I didn't hear that record like when I was born, but Moving Pictures is the first record I remember listening to, and it was because my sister was just a massive Rush fan and is to this day. She cannot wait to hear this podcast. Shout out to you, Wendy. You know, you were the first person to turn me on to Rush.
One of 75 female Rush fans.
And that bathroom line's getting longer.
Yeah, so I've been I've been on the fringes sort of my whole life, always a lurker, never a commenter. But I've always had a deep appreciation for them and the effect and the lingering effect they've had on rock and roll in the worldwide. So,
Jim, what about you, bud?
I can remember it fairly distinctly. We were riding around in the car in Beckley, and if I recall right, I was just looking to see if I could confirm. I believe it was 102.3 The River at the time, and I think it's a different thing now. I'm not sure, but it was 102.3 FM in Beckley. That was the oldies station, and this was early 90s, I guess. And I remember Tom Sawyer came on, which I didn't know what the song was, but what got me is I was a kid and I hear that big Moog Taurus E come in, like, yeah, meow. And I was like, what is that? That's really cool. And then I hear the song, and then, the Nino, and this guy with his weird voice and really cool bass playing and cool. And it was like, man, what is this? And so when I was a kid, whenever I would listen to radio stations, I would always try to make it a real special point. Like if I liked the song, to try to remember, I wouldn't maybe remember exactly which one it was. Cause they'd say, well, that was a little bit of Rush and 38 Special and whatever. Or if you're listening to pop station, it's so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And if you didn't know who they were, on the X 103 CIR, I would always just try to remember the names in that and then see if I could figure out which group that was. And so I remember them saying like, oh, that was Tom Sawyer, Rush. And so that one I knew was like, okay, so this band is called Rush. I want, like, my Uncle Mike would usually have like the cool tape. My dad would sometimes, but my Uncle Mike usually had like rock band tapes and like a lot of Southern rock tapes and stuff like that. So I went to my uncle.
He was like a big Queen fan too, right?
Huge Queen fan. Yeah.
I want to go on record saying that I love Uncle Mike.
Yeah.
Uncle Mike was a good dude.
Well,
Yes, he was.
And then so I go back to the house and I asked him, I said, Mike, I heard this song on the radio by this band called Rush. Do you have any Rush tapes or Rush records? You know, because we didn't have like a lot of CDs around. We had a whole lot of cassette tapes and then like vinyls. I said, do you have any Rush tapes or Rush records? He's like, oh yeah, I got 2 or 3. And he, you know, he pulled out his big tape bin that he had under his bed, and then he had Moving Pictures in there, which is the one I wanted, because then I heard that song. That was the song. I remember that. Had Moving Pictures. He had Signals, and he had Grace Under Pressure. Those were
great record.
The 3 that he had, and I remember listening to those, and then you know, subsequently became, you know, in the top 5 of my.
Are you a bass player at this point?
No. I mean, I was like piddling on guitar, and I mean, I was like 8 years old, maybe.
Okay.
8 or 9 years old, probably. Whenever I first very distinctly remember. After that, it was like, you know, I mean, I never like got like crazy into it. I was never one of those, you know, like crazy super
like
fans.
me?
But I just, but I mean, like, I just always very much appreciated it and was always a big fan, but I was never like a super duper fan. So then again, it kind of like fell off, and then I kind of got more into it whenever I was about, I don't know, 15 or 16, I think.
And then you're a bass player then. And
by then I was kind of starting to play, but it was like when I was about 8 or 9, I think, I very distinctly remember that, hearing that Moog Taurus synthesizer and then wondering like, what the hell is this? And
it's just like, just like the record shows, never like one of those freak fucks like Adam.
It's never one of those.
Well, now I was going to throw it to you.
Well, okay.
Junkdrummer.
I am a drummer, and I don't trust a drummer that doesn't like him. Man, I have a bit of a long story, obviously, because it's me talking. I grew up about 30 minutes away from Jimmy, which is in nowhere. And I knew I wanted to be a drummer, and I was a drummer in the band and marching band. And I was like, oh, okay, I want to play drum set now. And my parents were not in a financial situation to just buy a drum set on a whim of some stupid teenage kid. So trying to figure out a utilitarian way to get to a drum set, I found out that there was a guy in my hometown. His name's Jimmy Ellswick. Actually watches my channel. If you're watching this, shout out. And if he sees that this is Rush, he's definitely going to watch it. And
Jimmy.
Jimmy Ellswick.
Jimmy.
Dude, it's all his fault. I found out that this guy had a drum set, and I convinced my mom to go up Seth Hill to find Jimmy's house. It was actually near my mama's house. That's probably how I found him. And I just knocked on the door, and I was like, I'm a kid you've never met. And I heard you have a drum set. And he's like, I do have a drum set. And I was like, I'd really like to, play on your drum set. And I came in, and he let me. He was cool enough to let me. And, we live in an area where the resources are spread a little thin. And you could tell he was like, well, if this kid that's down the road wants to play drums, I'm going to let him. So I played drum set, and I came in. He had he had 2 completely different Pearl drum sets put up in a double bass kit, which is the last thing that you want to do as a beginner drum set. Sit down a double bass kit with 4 toms up, 2 toms down, cymbals everywhere.
2 different size kick drums.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, definitely. If I can remember right, I think one was green and one was blue. Jimmy, if you're watching this, tell me in the comment section. And I played a little bit, and I was like, wow, I heard that, you're a really good drummer. And he's like, I play. And he sat down and he played. Oh man, I'll never fucking forget this. He sat down and he played Show Don't Tell, fucking note for note. So the very first thing that I ever heard from Rush was Presto, that record. And man, I'd never seen anything that close up before. I'd been into concerts, but I'd never been up close to someone operating an instrument at such a high level. And that was it, man. I was hooked. I was fucked. I was going to be a drummer forever from that moment. and I didn't want to feel like I was being a drag on him, because I remember he was a single guy and he had a real hot girlfriend, and I didn't want to feel like I was being a drag on his life, because man, I wanted to go up there every day and play his drum set. So I worked out a deal. I had a lawn mowing business, if you call it business. I mowed lawns, and I told Jimmy, I was like, man, I'll mow your lawn once a week during the summer, ad nauseum, if you'll just let me come in for, once a week or whatever to play drum set. And those were kind of my first drum lessons. They weren't really like real lessons. He just got sick of hearing me play the same shit. Like I had one one bullshit groove I could play, and he just got sick of hearing that. So he'd be like, show me something else and show me something else. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to play Show Don't Tell on my practice pad at my mom and dad's house, and then be like, okay, I think I got that. And I was like, okay, I got that. And I'd go up there and I didn't have it. I didn't fucking have it. And so I would make him play. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he could play all of Presto. So my Rush was that. And then I became, dude, that's an underrated record. I know it has everything to do with, that's the first thing that I heard. And I've had shit given to me by Rush freaks, and Rush freaks are a little bit like Zappa freaks. They have their eras that they prefer, right? Mm-hmm. And if you've watched that Rush documentary, there's a lot of people that are a little down about 80s Rush, and fuck off, Billy. No, Zakk Wylde, that's who it was. Fuck off, Zakk Wylde. That shit's great. So
Tim Comerford, that was another guy.
Was he another one that bitched about him playing keyboards?
Yeah,
I'll get into it. That's some of my favorite shit.
Ed's a wonderful keyboardist, and
me too. So like my Rush was like, I had to actually go back and get to 2112 and Permanent Waves. My Rush was. And that's another thing. Back in the day when you dubbed that VCR, he had a regular version of Show Don't Tell. And I remember walking my mom and dad, like sneaking my mom and dad's VCR out the door to walk up Seth Hill, and I dubbed Show Don't Tell. So I watched Show Don't Tell over and over and over. And that video, and Adam can probably tell us the complete fucking playlist. What's the first song on Show Don't Tell, Adam?
Oh, you mean you're talking
the video?
You're talking about A Show of Hands.
Show of Hands. Shit. Yeah. Sorry.
A Show of Hands. The first song, the opening track is Big Money, and it has that crazy like weird animated intro.
Yeah, it's like green laser intro.
Yeah. I remember the cover to that, wasn't it? Like the Show of Hands live. It was like a super kind of early 90s, weird, like almost like a jazz festival.
Yeah, kind of
poster.
Yeah. It was like 88.
Yeah.
So my Rush was like 80s Rush. And then I had to go out of my way to go back to, because they weren't nearly as prog during that era. Because, they were like new wave influenced. If you think of like moving, exactly.
A lot of the Police.
And so I had to actually go back. And when I heard like 2112, compared to where I'd listened to Signals, which I mean, hell, my metal band is named after a fucking Rush song or Rush album. I was like, whoa, they're way more proggy than I thought, because Presto's not as proggy as you think Rush, when you think of Rush. You know what I mean? Like Anagram for Mongo is, an instrumental that's proggy, but those are like songs. You know what I'm saying? So that's, and then Man and That. So I've spent my whole life trying to recreate that feeling of hearing Presto played in its entirety by Jimmy. And I like to shout out Jimmy Ellswick because, well, maybe I do drive a late model car and it's probably your fault, but I wouldn't take it back. So yeah, man, that's it. And I've been a Neil Peart fanatic forever. Now, one of my happiest days of my life, and this is when I, was still kind of an ancillary friend of Adam, because I'm friends with Adam through Jimmy. And I remember being at my old house with my old and finding out that you got to work with Rush. And I was like, so happy. I was like, holy shit, Adam Jones is the biggest Rush fan that I know. And I don't know what your first thing is, and we'll get into that. But before we get into that, Adam Jones, tell us about your first Rush exposure?
So, around when I was starting middle school, 6th grade, I took I wanted to learn how to play guitar because my uncle Jeff played guitar and had this wonderful, it was the first production run of Squire. It was the 1982 Squire Strat.
And those are really good Strats, though.
Yeah,
those are the Japanese.
So they're just super, I mean, it had a laminated neck and everything, and it was a lovely guitar. Yeah. And so I borrowed that, and I was just, I thought because I had started playing trombone in middle school band that year, that I was like, I can just take on any instrument now. I'm good. So I got this guitar, and I'm like, I suck. And but I started.
Amazing how that feeling never goes away, even when you get good.
Yeah.
If it does, you've got your whole priorities wrong.
Amen.
Back then, any extra money I ever had came from, I would work Saturdays and evenings or whatever, whenever I could, helping out my dad at his glass business. And literally the only thing I ever spent it on was buying CDs and or tapes. It was earlier. So I bought these like classic rock greatest hits compilation bullshit things that you would find for $5 to $7 at Walmart or like the really bargain bin at Disc Jockey or FYE. And I remember I heard Tom Sawyer the first time on one of those, and I was like, man, this drum solo is fucking intense or whatever. But then I never really like came back to it much until my Uncle Jeff had a great collection of old stuff like that. And I randomly stole just like a stack of CDs from him from his apartment one day, and he didn't know for a while. And two of them it was Moving Pictures and Exit Stage Left. And the first one that caught my ear was I had Exit Stage Left on in my headphones, and the song Red Barchetta comes on. And the original recording of Red Barchetta on Moving Pictures is a masterpiece in my opinion, but when you listen to it on Exit Stage Left with that live recording feel, the crowd cheering, things like that, that was like a religious experience as young as I can remember. And I remember thinking, like, I suck at guitar, but whatever's going on with the bass right now, that's cool as fuck, and I got to learn how to play that. So I couldn't obviously quite work up to that just yet. So the first things that I ever learned on the bass were like More Than a Feeling by Boston, a very, very dumbed down version. But it was always like wanting to learn how to play what Geddy was playing that kept me wanting to listen to them more and get more into it. So you can see where my obsession came from.
We're going to get back to that, but you brought up something wonderful, and I'm loving this. Everybody here, tell me the first song that you remember learning. John?
First song I ever learned. I mean, we're not going back to like the piano lessons when I was 8 years old.
Like the thing that you think of is like, this is the song that
count. Yeah.
Yes.
Like a wrecking ball.
Bear. It was the theme to Top Gun by Harold and Steve Stevens.
Like
yes, sir. I specifically remember. So my first guitar that I ever got was a pawn shop special. It was a classical guitar. It was a nylon string guitar, with the flat neck and the non-radius fingerboard and all that. It was. I clearly remember sitting on the like side porch to my house in Kanawha City. I clearly remember like sitting there with a nylon string guitar and just going, no, yeah, okay. No, all on the E string, one finger, no technique or anything. And so, yeah, no, Top Gun theme, Harold Faltermeyer, Steve Stevens.
Well, Jimmy, what was the first song that made you like want to play?
I mean, they were all like church songs were like the first songs I can remember. The first, like, let's say non-church song, non-spiritual I can remember very distinctly learning was Hit the Road Jack. And that I remember being I was a very young kid, by the age of my oldest daughter. I was about 5 or 6 or so, and sitting there listening to that and then figuring it out on guitar, like really, really slowly. And I still couldn't like really do it right. And it was like the same, kind of like it was just one string, and it probably wasn't right at all, but it was like as close as my ears could hear it to be. But it was definitely Ray Charles Hit the Road Jack. That was the very first one. We had those little mini tape recorders. My grandparents had one, and I found out how to record. You got to press the orange button and the play button at the same time. And so I would hit that, and I'd make little recordings of myself, which we still got some of those tapes around. Some of them are ruined, but we still got some of those tapes.
You got to get some of that.
We're going to release
you need to get that to me so that I can restore it.
Yeah, buddy.
I found a really good one where I just heard my memo like picking up garbage and then say shit. That had to be from like 1989 or something.
We need that as a drop. We got to have that.
Shit.
So you're playing that on guitar then?
Yeah, it was in my mom's Harmony Sovereign. Just kind of just like moving it around with my index finger, and then maybe sometimes putting in my middle finger and figuring out where that one goes to. But that was the very, very first song I can remember like learning. There's not that many words to that song, but like really trying to learn the feel and the.
Were you singing it too?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
No, I always singing. That was like a problem for me, like growing up and like walking around the house, just always singing all the
Jimmy's
time.
got a serious singing problem.
I do. I still do it.
That boy ain't right.
That boy ain't right. You just walk around singing random songs.
It leads to starvation and late model cars.
Sure
does. It
does. Mine are very late model.
Let's get to you, Junkdrummer. You're the drummer of the group, and that's usually what brings most Rush fans in.
Well, I can tell you that the first song I wanted to learn how to play was Show Don't Tell, and I was not good enough. But the first song I learned how to play was at that guy's house, Jimmy. I learned how to play Separate Ways, Worlds Apart by Journey, and I can fucking play that shit note for note right now. Okay, so when I was
that's a fucking metal song for them. I mean,
man, dude, Steve Smith,
that song.
Man, Steve Smith, drummer of Journey at that time, was one of the greatest drummers of all time.
The drumming.
It had that 80s thing where you go boom, snare, boom, tom, boom, snare, boom, tom. It's like so 80s.
He's like the drumming Tony Levin.
It's
minus the drum fingers.
I still love you.
They need to make a band
those
where
drum
it's like
fills,
bald guys with mustache band.
The drum fills that came at the end of the core or at the end of the guitar solo. Yeah, I learned that. That was the one.
It's a fucking great song, man.
It's a great song. That was it. That was and that what was weird about that was like I was so influenced by Jimmy, and he was like a cat that graduated in the 80s. So like I listened to like the second song I ever learned how to play was at his house too, which was Here I Go Again on My Own by Whitesnake. So yeah, all of my I was just like living vicariously through that guy's what he listened to. Like I remember he had does anyone remember Missing Persons?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He had the Missing Persons Easy Money with Terry Bozzio on drums. And like, what was the girl's name? That was like Terry Bozzio's girlfriend at the time. But yeah, it was all that. That Yes Union record.
Oh,
do you remember Yes Union? So like that worked out perfectly. It's like, okay, I like Rush. And then like, oh, well, Yes is like the uppity British version of Rush. And that Union record, man, all that. Yeah. So yeah, mine was Separate Ways, Worlds Apart. So now we're going to get into Adam Jones is a man who idolizes and loves Rush. Is there what is the closest band that you would say you like as much as Rush? What's the
Fish
thing that gets there?
No. Man, I'm God, that's really tough. I mean,
I love putting you on the spot.
Yes is up there. But
Who wielded the Rickenbacker better?
oh God, that's hard.
Oh, that's
man.
so good.
That's
I love
so
watching you
hard.
squirm with that question.
Yeah, no, that like, oh shit, that just makes me sick.
I see Jimmy's mind turning right now.
Oh, well, I have my opinion on that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would I'd give it my of the two, my favorite Rickenbacker tone was definitely Chris Squire. Of the
It's like
two,
a-
but
an angry piano.
yeah, it was like a piano and an organ kind of put together. It was like this big, huge sound, and he played it with it, like with a dime or 10 pence or whatever it was.
It's a
And then
quarter.
a quarter. Like he had that big aggressive sound, and the way he and Wakeman would like blend their tones together was just kind of really something special. And Getty's Rickenbacker tones were never like my favorite Getty tones. I always really liked him on the jazz bass because he played the jazz bass like for Tom Sawyer. That wasn't the Rick. That was the jazz bass. And I liked some of his wall tones, like some of the wall sounds, not all of them, some of them. But I was more of like a Getty on a jazz guy than Getty on a Rick guy, which is sacrilege to some people, but I prefer Chris Squire's sound.
Well, and he has a much more bigger recorded history on that instrument. When did Getty like retire the Rickenbacker?
He stopped using the Rick, I would say. Grace Under Pressure was when
I
he
love that
started
record. God, that
phasing
record's so
it
good.
out. He started using those Steinberger basses because of
Like the necklace Steinbergers.
the headless Steinberger, and he only started using that because of his growing keyboards around him. He would whack the headstock into shit, and he was like, "Well, I can use this headless bass, and we'll get in and out." But luckily, that didn't last very long. Like he doesn't.
So Adam
even keep one around now.
So Adam Jones, you're going to end up having to tell your history of how you got even into this position. But as we talked about earlier, for 7 years, Adam Jones has worked as. Would you say you've worked as as a filmographer, a director? What would you say has been your position with Rush?
It's really it's been a combination of things because whenever I first got into their world was when I was at Rounder Concord Music, and
which is a record label for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, and I worked anything in digital marketing, their website, their social media stuff, and whatever like that. But then
were you their webmaster?
No, I was never their webmaster, but anything surrounding the releases that we were working, I would basically feed the news updates and things like that off to their team, working hand in hand or whatever. But as time has gone on, I've and then especially since I left the label, I've kept my relationship with them and now have in the past couple of years with what we started as an annual fan gathering, a cinema event called Cinema Strangiato.
I was going to say, please tell us like all of the things that you have had a hand in. Like you edited that, right?
Yeah, and actually, I named the event. Like we this was something that came up. One of the guys that used to work with one of the other theatrical releasing companies that we worked with for Rush went on to this new company, and we were great friends with him. And they were like, "Hey, wouldn't it be great if we had this yearly Rush fan event?" And he came to me and my old boss from Rounder, who is the biggest Rush fan I've ever met in my life other than myself, and he has a very similar story to mine. His name is John Barant, and if he's listening right now, I love you, buddy. But they came to us too, and then Rush management, my great friend Andy Curran, to put this thing together, and I got to help name it and come up with the whole concept. But then I edited and produced a new theatrical feature from footage that was directed by Getty's brother Alan, and really great guy named Dale Heslip. And yeah, so that was that thing, and it's kind of something that's still going on.
Man, that's such a big, like, I tell people, like, the guy that the producer guy that I work with, that I do all the recordings of us. By the way, stick around because you're going to hear us play a Rush song. If you will stick around during this whole thing, hopefully we're entertaining you enough for you to stick around. You're going to hear the Drunk Uncle Radio podcast.
It's a special episode.
Become the band that never was, Slate Dump, and we're going to play a Rush cover for you. And also you're going to see how doing a Rush cover actually takes 4 people to do it if you're going to do it fucking right, because only
a couple of them wearing more than one hat. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's a lot.
So yeah, you're going to see us actually play a Rush song, so please stick around for that. So Adam, when was the first time you met them?
So I'll go back just a little bit further just to tell, because one of the things that I haven't really gotten to talk about much other than with you guys is how weird it is that I actually got to work for them in the first place. Because I, from a preteen age, I was looking up to these dudes and geeking out over them, and being more awkward with women because of them, and and whatever. But it like, as soon as I moved down to Nashville, I started playing with these dear friends in my old band and all that stuff. When it was time for me to actually like start making money for rent and not still trying to get out there and play because things were tough at the time.
Not spending $25 to park and play and make 15.
That's right. I was working a job for a local tire store here, driving around tires from location to location. And that's when I came across somebody who was at the time working for Roy Orbison's wife, Barbara. So we struck up conversation, and I ended up getting to meet with Barbara Orbison, and we hit it off, and she hired me on to be the director of merchandise for this Roy Orbison estate. And when I started 2 weeks later, she forgot that she hired me. And
that's so mad, man. That's how Don Draper got his job.
So I was immediately like, they were like, why are you even here, baby? And I was just like, I need a job. And so I immediately was like, how the fuck do I sell some of this shit? Because some of this is just dog shit, man. And then we had some like good shirts and whatever. So
did they have him in the Western shirt yet?
No, not yet.
It's a good one. I got that.
Oh yeah. No, when I first got there, it was a lot of there were a couple good things. There was some other stuff.
I don't want to say too much bad, but
I don't want to say too much bad. It's like Barbara always, she and I always got along. And
full disclosures, Jimmy and John's better halves, and when I say better halves, I mean it. They also work at Orbison as well now, and I think one of the things that's improved what you're talking about is probably Jimmy's wife Chelsea doing a lot of the designing and such, right?
Yeah, I mean, the designs would get farmed out to whoever it came up, as a suggestion to Barbara, like a designer or whatever. But we were selling these one shirts for like $75, and it was like a picture of Roy and like a little excerpt of lyrics on the back of the shirt, but the shirt was literally like inside fucking out. Like it was like,
I remember that.
It was completely inside out, and it was
$75.
Yeah, for like high fashion. But every time I gave a shirt of this to somebody, they'd be like, everybody's always fucking asking me why I have my shirt on inside out. So it was like shit like that. It was kind of hard to sell. But my bright idea at the time, when I got this little selection, I was like, oh, there's some cool shit here. I can send everybody sunglasses or whatever. But I thought, what better way to get people to buy stuff than to see it being worn by somebody else on stage. So I went down the usual list of Orbison fans, your Bruce Springsteen and Raul Malo of the Mavericks, and people like that, but people where I could find their management.
Chris Isaac.
Yeah, Chris Isaac, of course. But folks in which I could find their management company contacts in this very thick book that Barbara gave me to use. And so I was just cold calling day after day after day. And it was like the very end of the second week of me doing this, where I got down really far back in this book. And I was late leaving that day, and I probably should have gone home like an hour and a half earlier or something like that. But I was like, all right, one more call, and I get to SRO/YYZ, which was SRO, management, entertainment, Rush's management, standing room only, and Anthem Records. So I was just like, what have I got to lose? So I call this number, and they're on East Coast time. So this was like nearly 7 p.m. on like a Friday. And I wasn't really thinking about that, but someone answers after quite a few rings. And I was just like, is this SRO with Rush? Yes. And I was like, okay. And I like went on my shaky voiced introduction about what I was trying to do there, and wanted to send them some shirts and whatever, as they had a tour coming up. It was the second leg of that Time Machine tour that they did in 2011. And he was just like, man, I'm like the A&R guy here at Anthem, so I don't really usually answer the phones, but I'm a huge Traveling Wilburys fan, so shoot me an email and I'll shoot it on to the guys, but let's keep in touch. I was like, oh my God, so I sent this email to Andy, was his name, and didn't hear back for ever. So like, as the Time Machine tour was kicking off, and they had a date coming through Nashville, which I had tickets for. They were coming through Nashville, and I just reached back out to Andy. I was just like, hey man, hope all's well. Saw the tour's about to start. Just like, if I could send you any shit, let me know. And they're like, he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I meant to tell you. It was like they have like themed clothes or whatever to go along with this tour or whatever. So they said they wanted to say thank you, but yeah, no. And I was just like, oh.
So to clarify, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get Rush to wear Roy Orbison gear on stage, and this is your way,
like paparazzi, whatever, like anybody.
And this is your way of trying to pop your position that you're at Roy Orbison. So you're hustling.
But when Andy said that, it's like, but I'd love to. Let's have lunch. On the day of the show. It's like, do you have tickets to the show? It's like, yeah, I've got tickets. So, the day of the show, I met this dude at Puckett's downtown Nashville for barbecue, and we're talking, and I brought him this big bag of Traveling Wilburys, Orbison, whatever, and we just sat there and talked, and he ended up upgrading my seats, and my brother and I were like 5th row on the floor, and it was a life-changing experience. We went backstage and got to hang out in the green room. It's like, that's when I first met Nick Raskulinecz for the first time. And
that is?
They're Rush's producer, Foo Fighters producer, everybody. Like, if there's an awesome hard rocker metal track out there and it's good, Nick probably did it. Me and this Andy guy just kept in touch. And a couple years go down, and he reaches out to me one day, and he's like, hey, Rounder is moving to Nashville. And, Rounder puts out all of Rush's, video stuff. He's like, do you want an in? I was like, fuck yeah, I want an in. So I got, referred to apply for this position, and got in. My first interview was with my old boss in LA. And the very second day was my second interview, or the next day was my second interview with John Verant, who ended up being my boss, and he's the former president of Rounder. And my entire second interview ended up being talking about Rush geek out shit.
Now it's Rush, and Rush is with Rounder at this point.
Yeah.
And this is after, did they go to Rounder after Atlantic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So after Atlantic, they went to Roadrunner, and then
the
Rounder.
metal label.
Mm-hmm.
What song? What record is on that?
There's the Time Machine live record, as well as Clockwork Angels was through Roadrunner.
Ah, okay.
Oh, and no, those were the only two through Roadrunner.
The best part about having Adam Jones as a friend is you never need to go to the Rush Wikipedia. It's it's the Rush Wikipedia is obsolete if Adam Jones is on your phone. It's the best.
He'll even have citations. He'll provide them in Turabian format or MLA.
I fucking hate Turabian, man.
It's just an altered Chicago style.
God, that sucks, man. Turabian format in college, I wanted to just shoot.
Man, I love Turabian because I could eat up page space.
This is why I graduated and I didn't.
Okay, so you get a job at Rush's record label because you were trying to get them to wear Roy Orbison gear on stage. Okay, so for all of you people out there that you are wanting to go get your music business degree, don't.
Nope.
Fucking don't.
Nope.
I didn't know this story. Jimmy, I'm sure you know this story, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard this story as long. I've known you for 15 years, and I didn't know this fucking story.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I hadn't heard it yet either. It's amazing.
My God.
I was making that first contact with Andy Curran, who is a Canadian rock star in his own right. Who
did he play with?
He's a bass player and vocalist for the metal, hair metalish. I'm sorry to say that, Andy. Hair metal. It's hair metal. Band Coney Hatch. And,
wow. Yeah. If you're American, we don't know that band.
But then he had a solo career as well. And I'll link to some of that here because some of it's really good.
Okay.
To sort of prop up Adam's story and situation, I think it's anybody that I've ever talked to or met or dealt with or whatever that wound up in a kind of an interesting or a really cool position in the music business, probably even the entertainment business, I would guess. And I would imagine it extends to multiple facets of business. But anybody in sort of the music business can trace the kind of cool thing they're doing then to this very first random thing they ever did. It was I think we were kind of touching on it with on that Hannah episode that we did with Hannah Dasher. You can always trace back that thing you did to this random thing that you wouldn't think would lead to anything necessarily, but it always does. And it shows how in this business, relationships are so important. Interpersonal relationships that you form with people mean more than really anything.
And I'll be the first to say that my entire, what I call a career now, is purely from luck.
Because that's the thing that when you talked about this before on another podcast, that you hadn't done film editing and the stuff that you would eventually do with Rush. Had you started doing any of that before you went to Concord?
Only a little, and I can't even watch that shit now. It's so bad.
Tell us one thing that you did that you just can't watch. Tell us one thing that you did.
Well, I literally, when I started, like I said, when I started at Orbison, I was the merch guy. But then there was one day that Barbara came in the office, and because she liked me, she would always just spray.
And when he says Barbara, he means Roy Orbison's wife, Barbara Orbison.
Yeah. She would just spring random shit on me, and it was usually be something stupid. Like, I need you to take Roy Jr. his new iPad or something like that. I was like, oh, okay. But then there was one day she's like, baby, we need a 30-minute infomercial for this new greatest hits collection. I was like, well, that's cool. And
Did you work for the girl from Schitt's Creek?
Oh my God.
Baby.
A little bit.
The baby.
Baby.
And then you just fold in the cheese.
Moira Rose and Barbara Orbison are very alike in speaking. I'm glad.
Oh
Baby.
yeah.
I love that show.
I do too. It's great.
But she talked about this 30-minute infomercial for like PBS or whatever, and I was like, that's cool. And she's like, when can you start editing? And I was like, what? And she's like, you work with video before, right? And I was like, I have expressed interest in it. I've never done it.
I would like to.
Yeah. So
Yes.
she handed me this thing that I had to get done in like 2 weeks. So I had to, I stayed up for like 3 or 4 nights straight learning how to edit video.
And this is before YouTube how-to videos.
Yeah. I wasn't on YouTube searching how-to videos, and just crash course myself in an old, better version of Final Cut, and produced this god awful infomercial that I've deleted from everything in my brain. It's probably still at a hard drive there somewhere, but it was, she loved it. She went for it.
Love it, baby.
Yeah. And it was on PBS for like a weekend or something.
Are you looking for it, John?
Maybe.
God, we got to find that for sure.
Is it how long is it, Adam?
It's like 30 minutes long.
But
it's for that collection thing.
Would it have been uploaded by Marty Sinclair? Boy, do I know that name.
Oh, it might have.
It exists.
I remember you working on this video because I remember us like dicking around with it or something.
You all were living together, right?
Yeah, we were living together. That was at the place up Old Hickory or whatever, and we were like just kind of like dicking.
Is it for the complete collection?
It's for the Monument Singles collection.
Okay, then no, this is different.
Got to have the blue.
This is only
screen
13 minutes long.
With the yellow phone numbers and Visa MasterCards. With only 3 payments in 1995.
Self-addressed stamped envelopes.
Yes.
I still have this file on a hard drive somewhere. I could probably find it, but
I think while you were working on
bad.
that's when we made that fake that fake Craigslist ad. Do you remember that?
Oh no.
I found the teaser, Adam.
Yes.
In celebration of Roy Orbison's 75th birthday, the first ever collection of Roy's original mono mixes from Monument Records.
Oh,
includes
so
bonus
good.
DVD. Dude, this totally looks like an iMovie compilation that I put together when I was
Fake it till you make it, baby.
Yeah.
Baby. Fake it till you make it, baby.
Available April 20th. Look, dude, I got words to come up on the screen.
They're like flying at you.
Like, dude, like,
I love it.
Barbara, 6 months ago, I was delivering tires.
I was delivering tires. Now I'm making these weird videos and selling your perfume.
What?
Oh, yeah. Barbara or Pretty Woman Perfume.
Pretty Woman Perfume.
Man, let's talk about her. And I know this is just a little bit of a steering off. And eventually we're probably going to have to do a deep dive into Roy Orbison. But like, that woman is a beast of a business lady, right?
Legendary.
Like, is this story correct? And, I think I've been told this story when I was probably completely hammered, because it seems like once I hit the Tennessee state line, you all don't have open container down there.
For everybody everybody but the driver.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you just live in a haze. Really.
Oh, it's wonderful. But the story was they wanted the song "Pretty Woman" for the movie, but the movie wasn't called that. And Barbara said, "I'll give it to you for free if you call the movie Pretty Woman." Am I getting that wrong?
I don't think it was free.
It was definitely not free
Because that's one of the main sources of income there.
but she worked it to be like you can. But the name of the movie wasn't Pretty Woman, was it? Am I getting this completely wrong?
No,
Man,
no. Because Sarah and I just watched this movie we've been watching a whole bunch of movies during the over the break, and it was something like "Hooker with a Heart of Gold" or that motif. And then Barbara stepped in and was like, "No. You want the song? You change the title of the movie."
Yeah,
baby.
Well, then remember there was also the John Candy movie, Only the Lonely.
Only the Lonely, yeah.
Oh shit!
Another
That was a
about
John
that.
Hughes movie, and John Hughes was a massive Orbison fan.
So okay, so that brings us back. Now, did you know just because she had SRO's number, being the Rush fanatic that you are, I've made the joke so many times. Like when I tell people about my friend Adam, the Rush fanatic, I say he's probably got Rush underwear, and you can tell us if you do or don't. But did you know that they were Roy Orbison fans, or was that a shot in the dark? Were you aware that like he was a fan?
It was kind of a shot in the dark, but like having read a lot of Neil's books, I could kind of gather that he was probably into his voice.
Okay.
Neil was a huge Sinatra fan.
Really?
He liked crooners, but he liked old rock. He liked Sun Records kind of stuff, I think. And but then he was kind of all over the place. He liked Linkin Park really randomly.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But I was just like, yeah.
Do you know? Oh, dude, here's one for you, and you all stick around because we're going to keep talking about Adam and his work with Rush. But we're going to end this because we are actually filming this on the anniversary of Brother Neil's death. So we're going to talk about Neil probably at the end of this episode. But at one point, this is a Modern Drummer magazine, late 90s. Do you know who his two favorite drummers were, Adam? I think I may have something on you, but this would have been if you only read this one Modern Drummer article.
His Neil's favorite drummers were
in like 96, 97, 98 in that area. Matt Cameron from Soundgarden.
Oh yes.
Chad Gracie from Live.
Oh,
Live, like
that's a random one.
Very rando. It was like,
I guess like Stuart Copeland or something.
Well, he obviously loves Stuart Copeland, and we'll talk about that.
Friends,
yeah, like he did a lot of that four on the floor reggae feel. But Modern Drummer magazine, mid to late 90s, find it. He's on the cover, obviously. And in that fucking article, he said, Matt Cameron, which made all the sense, makes complete sense. And Chad Gracie from Live was his two favorite drummers at the time. Like at the time,
right.
Like that, you know what I mean?
He got like into like Buddy Rich and all that, like after, right? That was like a little bit later.
Well, no, this would have been right around the time when he did that Burning for Buddy stuff.
Yeah,
it'd have been in the vicinity. Yeah, it'd have been in the vicinity of that. Now, we've all heard him talk about, oh man, we can't let this go on Neil yet because we're going to do that later because we're going to get back to Adam. But, Neil Peart has that famous quote, my favorite, top 5 favorite drummers were Hal Blaine. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you know what I mean? So back to Adam Jones, you're going to Concord, you're working at Concord Music, which they did everything with Rush outside of Canada, correct? At that time.
For video. Yeah.
For video.
So
now, how do you get from trying to hustle merch for Roy Orbison, and how do you get to working with Rush? How does that happen?
Oh, like I was saying earlier, it's like I owe it all to Andy Curran.
Was he still their manager?
Well, he was their A&R guy at Anthem at the time. So he was bringing in acts to
also a great song
Anthem for management and record releases. It's he brought in Big Wreck and God, who else? Anyway, there's been quite a few, but making contact with him and staying buddies with him and learning about what I do with Orbison, he got me into Rounder, and from that it all just kind of whenever I was hired on to Rounder, I was like the new Rush guy. So I was working all these bluegrass releases and stuff like that, but like when Rush shit came around, it was like it was known. It was me and John, the Rush guys. Leave him alone.
So by then, had you kind of like got your feet under you as a video editor, and you weren't just scrambling with Jimmy late night? And I can only imagine, because I know these two so well, the wacky shit that you all were doing with that raw Roy Orbison footage at your all's house. Oh, I can only imagine. So by then, had you gotten your feet under you and you felt like you had some confidence to do like a good product?
Yeah, a little bit. And then
Such an Adam Jones answer.
Some of the work outside of what I was doing with Orbison, like even working with the breweries here in town, graphic design wise, I was like, okay, I could fake my way up to Rush. It's like, but as we all know, the fan base is very,
Hey, look, I've done Neil Peart. I've done 3 Neil Peart videos on this channel, and I love them. And I said one thing that could be if you really wanted it to misconstrued as some sort of negative thing. And the one thing I said was, I don't think he's the greatest drummer in the world. I think he's the greatest drum composer. Dude.
Yeah.
Dude. Like, I was new to the business, right? That's like my 3rd video. No, my very first video on this channel, if you're watching it on YouTube, is Neil. Like, obviously I was going to do that. And oh, damn, that fan base they weren't having it. They weren't.
Well, most dangerous thing you can do is express honest opinions.
That's very true. It's very true. And the thing is, man, as much as we know about Neil, he wouldn't say that he was either. Now, Getty and Alex probably would. But okay, because we're going to get there. Oh, as a drummer, I'm so ready to fucking talk about Neil Peart on this day, because I don't want it to be a funeral. I want it to be a celebration. So, Adam, what is the first thing that you, and I remember I was at my old house, and I got the text or however it was, because this is before I even had a Facebook or any of that shit. And I was like, Adam Jones is working with fucking, it's definitely MySpace. So I was still playing with Jimmy then.
Yeah.
Like, Adam is fucking working with Rush. What is the first thing that you work with Rush other than trying to hustle Roy Orbison gear on their persons?
Speaking of Roy Orbison gear, Orbison represent
right there.
And John Cavendish definitely is not on that record. Adam Jones, go ahead.
No, the first thing that I got to work on was it was their 40th anniversary in 2014.
R40.
And yeah. And it was a year before they actually went out on the tour. They went out on the tour a year late, actually. But we put together this compilation of all of their videos that Rounder and Concord had released, and it's every DVD released since Rush and Rio. So it was Rush and Rio, R30, Snakes and Arrows, Clockwork Angels.
There it is.
Right? So, no, none of those two. No, those came after.
Are you're on these, right?
Yeah.
This is your shit?
Mm-hmm.
He sent those to you.
No, I didn't send it to him. I came down there and I said, motherfucker, we're going to the vault. I was like, I'm going on with these motherfuckers right here. Yeah, man, it's so strange. It's like, a guy that I know that I love is the guy that, helped produce these things. What the fuck is Getty playing on that? What is that?
That is a Hofner solid bass.
What?
It's called.
That was like his first bass, right?
The little short scale is kind of similar to his first bass.
That's a strange bass. I've never noticed that bass before.
Yeah.
Hofner made a lot of weird solid body bass. Not a lot, but a number of weird solid bodies.
His first bass was started with a C, Cavona, something like that.
Or like one of those weird Italian basses or something.
I can't remember. I was just reading about it earlier today. But yeah.
So R40 is the first thing. And what was your job on R40?
I just did like online marketing stuff. I made a trailer for it. That was like the first video thing I did for them.
I remember you sending that to us.
I think it sucks now. But,
no, that's everywhere, right? So that's got to be easy to find.
Oh, it's just type in R40 box set and that's it.
Oh yeah, we'll put that in the link in the description, everybody.
But I did that trailer thing, and it was like a Best Buy exclusive thing. That was kind of the first thing I did on that, and then just like your like email marketing, whatever like that. But as time went on and like the tour got announced, thanks to my good buddy John Varant, he was just like, you can go to a lot of these shows, right? And so I just like looked at the tour dates, like I think I'll go to that one, and I should probably go to like I picked out like 8.
Did Jimmy go to any of these with you?
He was busy.
Oh yeah, he's probably on the road.
That was the trailers days, right?
In the beginning, and then it transitioned into like many other things.
Yeah. But and that's as soon as I got to working on the tour side, that was when my relationship with them kind of became more, because I was kind of called upon more.
Now tell us about the first time. And man, I'm definitely going to make sure you don't fuck your relationship up with them, because you have so many stories about them. But can you tell the Trailer Park Boys shit?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about the first time Adam Jones, lifelong Rush fan. And if you don't have Rush underwear, I know what I'm getting you for Christmas next year. The first time you get to go meet the fellas, and then, you never met Neil, and as a Neil Peart fanatic, I know that Neil really didn't do anything outside of playing drums, recording drums, and that. He did not deal with, label people, none of that side stuff.
Well,
would you say that's accurate?
He would meet up and hang out with certain label people that he'd known forever.
But he wasn't like how he was still the new guy in that situation.
Yeah, no, like if and
if you're a Rush fanatic, you know that Neil Peart has always been the new guy. After 40 years, he's always been the new guy. But if they
if they had like told Neil's like, hey, we got this new label guy you want you to meet, and he'd be just like, fuck that,
I'm gonna go ride my bike.
Yeah. But no, he had he wouldn't do like the public meet and greets or whatever, but he would still meet up with old friends that, worked with the label for a long time, or old radio.
It had to be something special is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, he's not going to meet up with like, hey, this is Joe Schmo that won a radio contest thing. That was more of a Getty and Alex thing.
This is my favorite Neil story about that. I was at a PASIC, and it may have been in Nashville. I've been to 2 PASICs. I've been to Columbus PASIC and Nashville PASIC. And I'm a dork, and I pretty much know drummers. If there's a crowd around a drummer at a drum convention, I probably know that guy. And I saw this guy getting just hounded, just a crowd around him. Game of Thrones, walking down the street, Shane style, like crowd around this guy. I was like, who the fuck is this dude? I've read every Modern Drummer since 1992. And everybody's like, it's Neil's drum tech. And dude, Neil's drum tech, it was like Elvis, but with a bunch of drum nerds. Because Neil never liked that Neil would never do any of those kind of things, any of those kind of drum conventions, none of that. He wasn't interested. And yeah, man, like, and you just know that the guy was just announcing it. This is rolling in to a drum convention with like 10,000 drummers. Like, in case y'all didn't know, and he was just getting hounded. And I swear to God, he was signing stuff. He was giving his autograph out.
Wouldn't you have been?
That's right.
What year was this?
96 or 98. 8.
That's got to be Lauren. Like,
Oh God, of course you know who it is.
Yeah.
Of course. So now, Adam, take us to the fucking moment of your life. And yes, you have children, and I'm going to guess that the birth of your children are the most important one. The most important thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good.
Course, no
okay,
question.
so now the second most important is tell us about meeting Alex and Getty, getting called forth and getting to meet these dudes. And did you keep your shit together?
Well, the coolest, certainly the coolest coolest week of my life was the kickoff of the R40 tour. And I was to fly out to Tulsa for the first night. But I wasn't just seeing the first night of the tour. I was going to get to watch the final rehearsal.
A rehearsal. Oh my God.
So, I flew out, I'm a fanatic about getting to my destination super early. Because I'm a nerd. I'm like an old dad in that fact.
Nah, man, if you're in the business, you think Jimmy's ever been late to a fucking rehearsal or to a gig?
Early's on time, you're late.
Yeah. So like I was leaving Nashville to fly to Tulsa. And their final dress rehearsal was at like 7 or so. And so I was just like, there's only like 2 flights to Tulsa from Nashville in a day on Southwest. So I took the early one. I was leaving at like 5:30 in the morning. And I get to the airport and they're like, flight's been canceled because of fog where you were connecting through Chicago. I was like,
you
fuck!
You drove, didn't you?
I didn't drive. I sat at the airport for like 5 hours, waited on another flight which had me going from Nashville to Denver to Tulsa. It was infuriating to me.
Oh God.
But I get to
like
Denver
meandering through
and
Denver Airport.
Yeah,
dude, Denver Airport freaks me out. It
the
freaks me
layover
out.
time.
It
I'm
shouldn't
looking at
exist.
I know the Illuminati shit.
Well, just no, it's a fucking tent. Like, really, y'all couldn't put up a fucking structure? This is just a fucking tent.
Tent with a big, ugly blue Bronco with crazy red rape eyes outside.
Like 40 miles from town.
I think I see it over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're Denver via.
Yeah, I'm in Denver with the layover. I'm like, fuck, I'm not gonna make it for this dress rehearsal. I will shit my pants if I miss this dress rehearsal. And I land in Tulsa, and it's like 20 minutes till this is supposed to start, and I'm like flagging down every cab.
This is pre-Uber, kids. This is pre-Lyft.
No, this is Uber time, but like it wasn't quick enough to get me.
Proto Uber.
Right.
So,
not what you think of Uber now. I don't know about you all, but we can't get Uber here anymore.
I make it straight into to the arena, and there's like 10 minutes to spare or whatever, but I get shuffled backstage where I meet with John, my good buddy, and Andy, who got me into this mess. They're about to start their final run through. But he's like, hey, you got a minute? We'll come into the green room and get you some food and drink or whatever. And while I'm standing in there, Alex walks in, and I get introduced to him. He's like, oh, Alex, this is Adam from your record. Oh, hi. And he was just like the sweetest dude. And I'm just kind of like, oh my God, trying to keep it together because I don't want to be that guy. Nobody likes that guy.
So did you?
I did.
Nice. Good man.
I kept it together, and we.
Now, folks, remember Adam Jones is a bass player, and he's not met Geddy Lee yet. Continue.
But no, we had a nice chat before the show, and that was that, and didn't see Neil or Geddy. But when I walked out into the hallway backstage to go out to the seats or whatever, just as I was about to go down that particular tunnel, some dude rolled by me on roller skates. I was like, the fuck is that? and it was Neil.
What?
Yeah. His big thing that whole week leading up to the first show was in off time backstage or whatever, he would roller skate around the arena because the floors back there are so conducive to it. But
he's Canadian, so they all can skate. So
Yeah.
but when I saw that, I was like, God, you could like turn an ankle and ruin an entire tour.
That was my first thought when you said that. Like, that seems against the liability waiver that he signed.
Yeah, but I just like I saw him roll by. I was like, oh my God, that's probably the only time I'll ever see him.
I bet a dude that just like goes and jumps on an adventure motorcycle after nearly every show doesn't really care about liability waivers.
yeah, no shit. Oh yeah, dude, like just getting lost in Africa on a motorcycle. That guy doesn't care.
But yeah,
I'd have lost my shit. By the way, I would have been a mess.
Kind of taken a like I got hit by his wind, coming, on the
dude. When I saw the first show ever was on the Roll the Bones tour, and I was with a girlfriend who hated my music, and he played the fucking drum solo, and I fucking wept. And I remember Stephanie was like, "What? He's playing drums? Are you weeping? Like you don't fucking understand?
Shut up!
You're dumb."
yeah. This song doesn't even have words.
And
her favorite band was Bare Naked Ladies, by the way.
And it wasn't much later that you said to Stephanie, "Look, you just didn't make the team, okay?"
Nope, you got to go. So anyway,
your jump shot, it's not quick enough.
bounce,
jump.
So Neil flies by you. Do you meet Geddy that night too?
I met Geddy after the rehearsal.
Was it harder to keep it together when you met Geddy?
No, because I was kind of sensory overload at that point. And because getting to watch that entire production in a room of like 5 of us.
Adam Jones, can you tell me the first 3 songs of that set list?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me.
It was The Anarchist. It was...
From what record?
From Clockwork Angels.
Okay.
Clockwork Angels and Headlong Flight. We played 3 from...
So what song had the drum solo?
Headlong.
Yes. That's why you don't need Rush Wikipedia when Adam Jones is your friend. No. So tell us about meeting Geddy Lee for the first time, Adam.
It was very quick after that last dress rehearsal. We walked backstage to kind of leave out that way out of the arena, and it was after the set had ended and saying our goodbyes to management and everything, and we got to walk through Geddy's bass world, and I'm walking by his racks.
What's he playing at this time?
Well, he had like 25 basses on that tour. So,
Jimmy, can you give me some of those basses from that time?
Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, didn't he have the jazz bass had like the new neck put on it by then, I think.
With the block, with the big black block?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, he had his number 1 jazz from the 70s.
And the red jazz.
With the new neck on it and whatever. He had a red jazz, but then he had all these crazy, there's a lot of the stuff that he bought with the book, like
he started bringing out all these like pre-CBS
basses
and yeah.
Rickenbacker double neck was back out.
What was he playing the Rickenbacker double neck on?
Xanadu.
Oh, the back and breaker.
Back and breaker.
Yes.
Yeah. The back.
Has anyone picked one of those up? Have you played one?
I've picked one. I picked up a double neck Rickenbacker before.
So it's an 8 and a 4?
No, I mean, you can
4 and a 12 usually.
Yeah, they were like different configurations. But yeah, 4 and a 12 or a 4 to 6.
So if you have that 12, you can play Jeremy by Pearl Jam.
Well, no, I mean it's a guitar though. It's not a 12.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a 12.
No. I mean, yeah, it's like a 4. Usually I've only played one double neck Rickenbacker, and that was a 4/6, a bass and a 6. But I've also seen a 4 and a 12.
Yeah, both double. Geddy had 2 double necks with him: a Sunburst one, with the Fire Glow one, and a Jet Glow, and they were both 4-string bass, 12-string guitar.
And one of my favorite Geddy tones I heard was the R40, but whenever I hear like this
P-bass.
huge thick
It was
tone.
Roll
I
the
was like,
Bones.
yeah, on Roll the Bones, I was like, man, what is that huge bass sound Gaze get? Oh, it's P bass. Of course.
Which, if you don't know, that is
Goddamn.
Jimmy's number one. Jimmy, your number one is a P, right?
It's always the one I reach for first. I mean, it just works.
It's
If
the
you-
most recorded bass in music history.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't grab a P bass and make it sound good, you're bad. It's like it just works. A jazz bass is pretty similar. Like a jazz bass is just going to sound good, but you have one more pickup to fuck up. Like with the P bass, it's a volume knob and a tone knob and your hands. And if it doesn't sound good, you did something wrong.
That's my favorite quote so far. If a jazz bass has one more pickup, you can fuck up.
We'll get into P basses hard on the Gear Nerd episode. Oh my God.
Next week, tell them, Adam, what are we doing next week?
We're going to talk about iconic gear.
And it's going to get real nerdy.
It's going to get incredibly nerdy.
Oh, I can't wait. But we're going to do a little gear nerding with Neil later too. We're going to have to do that. Because at this point, is this when Neil had moved to DW and had the Paragons going on at this point, right?
That happened. He went to Sabian for the R30 tour in 2004.
Okay, so it had been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've always wondered, do you think that he still used that ping rod even when he was with Sabian? Like the legendary ping rod?
No, because you could tell, like in videos, it was the Paragon because they,
had the etching on it, right?
Etching, yeah.
Okay. So you've now met all of your heroes. You're now working with them. You're doing work with Rush. Tell us about, talk about you hanging out with, was Gaddy there for the Trailer Park Boys filming? Or was that just Alex?
That was Alex.
Tell us about the most Canadian thing that's ever happened. What would be more Canadian than Alex Lifeson and Trailer Park Boys?
I had a couple things, actually.
Go ahead, tell us out. That's what we're here for.
Well, so first, like, the Trailer Park Boys were looking to put out a DVD, and so I was sent to kind of court them because I had this relationship with the Canadian side of Rounder, with Rush and everything. So I drive to Memphis where they're filming Out of the Park USA.
Yes.
So I go and I see them film for a little bit, and then I go to dinner at some, I can't remember which rib place it was there downtown.
With the boys.
With the boys and Alex, because Alex was there as a
Was it Martin's?
No, it wasn't Martin's.
Alex Jones or Adam Jones. Alex Jones. Alex Jones, Adam Jones. Do you ever fucking just wake up and be like, I went to dinner with Bubbles and Alex Lifeson? Like, what weird life do you live?
That was a big thing for a while every day. But no, I sit down for dinner with Ricky, Julian, Bubbles, and Alex is like the one I know, so I'm like talking to him.
He's your in. Alex Lifeson's your in to meet these other people.
Yeah.
What a weird life you live.
And turned out, the Trailer Park Boys dudes are such sweethearts. And
if you don't know, Bubbles, and probably the other two, but we know that Bubbles is a fanatical Rush fan.
Oh yeah.
And at this point, Alex has already appeared twice?
Quite a bit.
Well, he was the cop.
Yeah.
And then didn't he do drag at some point?
Yeah, he did drag in the second one, in the second movie, but in the series they kidnapped him.
They kidnapped him. That's right.
That was on the Vapor Trails tour in 2002.
That's right. Tell me the first 3 songs of the Vapor Trails tour.
It was Tom Sawyer.
They just got it out of the way early.
Yep.
Okay.
Tom Sawyer, I think New World Man.
Good song.
And I want to say Limelight, but I might be wrong.
You're probably not. Okay, Adam, we got to get into this. What is if you have one Rush record, what is the one? You get one. What is your one Rush record?
It's always going to come back to moving pictures.
Okay.
Because
so safe choice.
I hate that it's like the safe choice, but it was like the first one that was like mind blowing to me. You know, you had Tom Sawyer, of course. Like I said, Red Barchetta is the reason why I ever wanted to pick up a bass. And it was one of the first times that I ever was like, I got into the lyrics and I'm listening to Neil talk about this adventure of driving a getaway car in a time where combustion engines are outlawed. I'm like, this is so badass. And
that brings up a good story.
Yeah.
So me and brother Jimmy, we're playing music. We're out there. We're trying to play the good notes for the good people and try to come up with our original band. And this is before John was in this excellent band. And it's me and Jimmy and Voldemort. And we're at a diner somewhere, probably Big East country. We're in the Big East. And that song comes on. And man, I'm a Rush fan. I fucking love them.
I think it was outside Fayetteville or something.
Is that where it was? So yeah, definitely Big East.
It was on the road to Fayetteville from Charleston or something.
So there you go. And that would have been at the Big East at that time. Mm-hmm. And Red Barchetta comes on, and I had never had the eye of ire from Jimmy at that point because they're still relatively new buds. And I just offhandedly was like, man, the music's great. It's Rush. It's great. It's from a fucking great record, but I just don't get these lyrics. Now, I'm not a car guy, right? So I'm not a car dude, right? Dude, Jimmy, Lykens, and Voldemort ate my lunch for 20 minutes. Like after they had later on, after they had far made their point, he'd be like, you're a fucking dumbass because this is one of the greatest fucking songs ever. I think I've never been beat up by Jim before. Jimmy, tell me why I am wrong about Red Barchetta.
Well, I mean, I'm a big lyrics guy. Lyrics always mean a lot to me. Music and all that too. But I'm one of those dudes, like, I really love great lyrics. And I will say, and I'll get hate for it, I don't think all of Neil's
Easy.
Lyrics,
I care about you, Jimmy.
I know, but I don't think all of Neil's lyrics were like the greatest lyrics ever written. But a lot of them were wonderful. And I thought Red Barchetta was great. It wasn't like, is it high art? No. Is it lowbrow? No. It fit in this perfect kind of spot, which is kind of perfect for that record for me. It was this perfect kind of spot somewhere in between prog and pop. It's like prog pop almost. Prog rock pop. And it sort of fit perfectly, and it had some themes that people can understand. You know, it's your uncle's country place no one knows about. And, you know, it's that feeling of freedom, you know, of just like a little secret that you have that you can keep to yourself. You can keep your freedom secret also. Like you don't have to share it with anybody. Mm-hmm. And it was blending this artsy sort of prog side with the accessible radio friendly side that I thought that was like, it was I'd say genius. To me, it was one of my favorite lyrical Neil efforts ever because it was a good representation of both sides that blended perfectly, which is why like for me, like, you know, like Adam said, for me, Moving Pictures is always the one I go to because it's their culmination of like, they took all that prog side and then Grace Under Pressure was, you know, like a pretty successful radio record. And then they were able to sort of parlay that into Moving Pictures, which was like almost a perfect amalgamation of the prog side and the radio side, and showing that not just Yes, you know, there were other bands that could be successful commercially that were prog bands, and that it could be accessible to more than just us nerdy dudes. And Red Barchetta is like it. It's accessible. It's an accessible, nerdy lyrical song. It's still nerdy, but it's accessible.
I mean, what you just heard was a calm version of what Jimmy said back then, which was far, far more heated, if you will.
A lot more expletives. And
oh man, I got my lunch was taken. It was so bad. And you know, I like the song, but like the lyrics. Okay, so before we get into fucking full-on Rush nerding the fuck out, Adam, is there any more things you want to tell us about your relationship what it's meant for you in your career to be able to work with Rush. Is there any other stories you want to tell us? And then also, we have been given permission to tease a thing. We can't tell you about that thing, but we can tease a thing.
Yeah, no, we're gonna do that later. But
okay.
But the best thing that come out of all this is just the relationships I have. You know?
Geddy Lee gave Adam Jones a bass. Tell him.
It's true. There were 40 copies of this, the Geddy Lee jazz bass with 2112 artwork on it, made for the 40th anniversary of 2112, and I got one of them. So that's cool.
Like Geddy just sent you a bass. Like that's the like when you wake up today and you go to your fucking job and you hate it, like Adam Jones had a bass sent to him from Geddy Lee. What kind of life do you live? It's so true. You all three of you assholes. Like, what lives do you all live? I'm so proud to know you.
I got to meet Geddy because of Adam.
Yeah.
Wait, so I didn't know. Have you met the fellas too?
Yeah, just Geddy. I've only met Geddy, and then me and Adam, we've hung out. Like I hung out with him with the Trailer Park Boy guys.
Yeah, that was a good.
No shit, Jimmy, you got to tell us. Tell us, Jim.
Oh, that was funny as shit.
Not a whole lot to tell on which one, the Geddy or the.
Just getting to meet Geddy, because I mean, at this point, you're a Geddy Lee fanatic.
Oh yeah, well that was the Big Book of Bass signing
2 years ago.
Yeah, just 2 years ago. The signing event here in Nashville at the. At Basement East, RIP. Hopefully coming back, I guess. But there was a big line out there, but Jones has got special privileges, so we just
y'all skipping line.
Yeah, we go in, and then Geddy's in the green room, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go meet Geddy?" He's like, "Well, fuck yeah, I want to go meet Geddy." Of course. Yeah. So we just go, yeah, that was it. Just met him, shook his hand, talked to him for 3-4 minutes, and left, and then went and listened to him talk a whole lot about bass for a little while.
Does everyone here have the big bass book?
Oh yeah, I've got
all these bass players have them.
I'm sitting on it right now. One of the coolest things about
mine's over here.
Is yours signed, Adam?
Yeah, and so like the night that Jim and I took Jimmy along to that signing here, we went back and hung out with Ged, and Nick was back there too, Nick Raskulinix, and another one of their producers, Peter Collins, was back there. I was joking with him. I had like 4 copies of the book. The book was hard to come by, and it's still hard to come by.
Was it a limited edition?
Not really, but it ended up being in much higher demand, so the printing was delayed.
It's a big book, real fancy, and
it's a bestseller.
Mm-hmm. Was it on the New York Times best-selling list?
Mm-hmm.
Nice, of course.
But I had like 4 copies of the book with me, but it was like to have signed for friends of theirs. Like the equipment manager for the Nashville Predators here is great friends with Alex and golfs with him, and he's a really great guy. But there's people like that I was getting them signed for, and I was like, well, shit, I don't have my own copy. So they're like, hey, just, get yourself a copy on Amazon or something and have it sent, to management's office, and Geddy will send it back to you. So,
tell me, bass players, tell me everyone's favorite bass from the Big Bass book. Jimmy, what is your favorite bass from the Big Bass book? I love that look, John.
He's got a matching headstock Fiesta Red Jazz.
I love the Fiesta Red Jazz, but I do not like matching headstocks. It drives me crazy.
What do you got against matching headstocks? That's blasphemy.
I just don't dig it, man. I don't. It's the same reason I don't like, as much as my favorite Neil Peart drum set is that Ludwig that's like midnight blue, kind of purpley with gold hardware. I don't like gold hardware.
I love gold hardware. But gold hardware needs to be on a matching headstock. if gold hardware is not on a matching headstock, it looks a little bit out of place, but when it's on a matching headstock, it is beautiful.
But I love that Fiesta Red. I love that. I like my 2 favorites is Antigua and the fucking Fiesta Red. I love that.
I had an antique one, then I sold it. But
I love that bass. It was sexy. It was a sexy
the
bass.
booger bass.
It was
so
150
heavy.
pounds.
It was so heavy.
What made that heavy?
It was ash. It was the 70s. It was the late 70s Fender. So it was ash. It was so heavy. But no, yeah, my favorite of his, I can't remember what year is it, like a 62, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
But a matching Fiesta Red, which is nearly impossible to find. They don't hardly ever come
not
up.
a refin either.
Yeah, that's an original. And most of the ones you do see are refinned.
Mm-hmm.
And that one's not, which a lot of those were. I mean,
Tell people what refinned means.
Means refinished. Means they
There
were
we go.
painted over. Because back in the olden days with Fender, even black was a custom colors. You got sunburst or Olympic white for bases, and that was pretty much
black
it.
was like sprayed over Olympic white.
Yeah, and a lot of times like Fiesta Red, like say Pinot Paladinos, you get a Fiesta Red, it's usually sprayed over something else. They just grab a body off the rack. It had probably already been sprayed, and then they'll just spray this custom color on it. So his was actually sunburst underneath, and it had been sprayed over.
And this is just a preview of next week's episode. Brother John is going to lead us through
the kind of dorkiness we're going to get into.
It's going to get awesome.
It's going to get deep.
But yeah,
I can't wait.
That's my favorite one in that book is that matching headstock Fiesta Red. They're near impossible to see.
Jimmy, you're next, but Adam, real quick, what were the last strings that Geddy Lee used on the last tour?
Oh, it's always been roto sound, swing bass.
What were the sizes?
Swing bass 66, 105 to 45.
There you go, baby. John, what was your favorite bass from the Gigantic Bass book?
Man, I don't know. There's you can't pick one. I mean, just the jazz basses alone, given Geddy's history and that being such a huge part of his sound over so many years, just the J's alone. There's a couple of Paisley Telly basses in there.
What?
And I'm a sucker for Paisley. Yeah, it's Fenders. They did it in the late 60s.
No, this is the Telly bass, like you're thinking the Telly bass that still looks like a P or a J.
It's got a P style body, but it has that Telly neck shape to it where it doesn't have the big hook on the bottom of the headstock. But single pickup, single not split, single coil. And they did these in late 60s. I don't think they started till 65 or 66, and they didn't make them much past 68.
It was like real late 60s. Yeah, like
69.
69, yeah.
But
I've never seen one. I've never even seen that bass.
There's not very many. They had that, and they had that flower pattern, and there's not very many of those.
Flower pattern is something that Geddy's still looking for.
Yeah, that's even harder to find in the.
Yeah. I've never seen the Paisley bass.
I'm a sucker for a Paisley guitar. So
and you have one. You own one, right?
I owned one. I sold it.
Wait, you got rid of that? Dude, you fucking freaked out in the chat. It's like, dude, I got this fucking Paisley Stratocaster. Oh my god! And
no, I got rid of it. It was that Paisley Telecaster I got from Parker.
Oh shit! And you got rid of that,
Michael Travis Parker. Well, I got rid of it at a very nice profit margin, so I'm not complaining. And here's the deal: that guitar was too shiny for me. It had a gloss finish, beautiful maple neck with mother of pearl inlays, and
you just drag it behind a four-wheeler a little while.
I didn't have the heart.
Throw it in the freezer and take it out.
Yeah, a couple thousand times.
Is that a trick that they do
freezer
that?
To the oven, to the freezer to the oven to get the finish to crack?
Something.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Adam Jones, I can't wait. Tell me your favorite bass in the big bass book that Geddy Lee wrote.
Really, really, really hard. I don't know. I have a real big crush on that double neck Rickenbacker for 12 strings, this color right here.
Okay.
With the gold pick guard. It's just one of the most beautiful things. That's why I put that gold pick guard on my Fireglow bass. It's because it's like a cool, like Tom Petty kind of look about it.
Yeah.
But that's probably that one, but there's way too many good ones.
So Adam,
you got to put the Rickenbacker TV knobs on that bass.
Oh yeah, the big
like Philco TV knobs.
And that was a teaser for what's going to go down next week. So, Adam, anything else you want to tell us? Because I want to fucking geek out on Neil on the day of Neil's death. And I want to talk about music that Rush made that we love. So anything else you want to?
Yeah, no, I just, as far as my relationship with them, it's just the best thing to come out of this is just knowing them, and their entire organization is just the nicest people I've ever met. And some of my
Well, they're all
favorite,
Canadian, right?
yeah, and my favorite relationships ever have come from that, and that's the reason why I'm buddies with and work with Ian Thornley of Big Wreck.
Now, let's start it with like this. Adam, what was the last Rush record you listened to?
Well, other than listening to Roll the Bones for the song that we recorded.
Yeah.
I kind of go through phases where I'm not listening to really anything very often. And then I'll listen to just random stuff, and then I always come back to Rush, obviously. But most recently, before recording this song with you guys, I just really gotten straight back into moving pictures again. And so that song, I was telling John to go listen to it, damn it, because I think it's one of the best mixed songs ever. But the song "The Camera Eye,"
it's great. It's
such a good song.
See, that was the thing with that record and Counterparts, is those were like, I was a Rush fanatic by then, and those were the two new records. So those Rush records feel like mine. You know what I mean? Like, I remember hearing Animate for the first time. I was like, holy shit, this is new Rush. And man, Adam, oh my God, I've been waiting for this so long. Like, how cool is it that Rush started out kind of heavy? First record, kind of heavy. They got proggy. Then they got new wavy, like as Jimmy was talking about, splitting the difference between a pop band and a prog band. And then these last records got heavier again. They got heavier as they got older. That's not common. That's not like a common flight of a band. Like, they got so heavy on those last records.
Yeah, and it was even like Test for Echo, that
great record. Saw that tour.
Delving into a heavier sound or whatever, but then after all the tragedy that went down in Neil's life and everything, and coming back, they were like recording Vapor Trails like right when 9/11 happened.
Really?
And, yeah, they were in Toronto, and that's like right when they were doing One Little Victory, and that whole like Vapor Trails that was the first tour that I saw them on. That record's like huge to me still. It's so many good songs on that record. But I come back to even like their very last record, Clockwork Angels, is such a huge like high note to end it on, and a lot of that comes from their great relationship with their producer and my buddy Nick Raskulinix, because he's
the production on that record is unlike any other production that's on any other record. He's like
a mad scientist in the studio. Like, he becomes a member of the band, and he's so knowledgeable of how to make a song flow and how to kick things into high gear. It just kind of takes on like a new face with him, and like, Rush has worked with the best of the best, and then they came to Nick and they're like, oh, this guy's fucking great, so he had a lot to do with those last two records. And
so when they were coming down there to your hometown to record, were you around at all?
No, this was before they recorded the two singles from Clockwork Angels here in Nashville with Nick, but this is before I was in the
orbit.
Yeah.
Jimmy, what was the last Rush stuff you listened to?
Well, yeah, I mean, besides listening to Roll the Bones for the tune that we're doing, I listen. There's usually like two or three that I kind of just find myself meandering through a lot of times. I'm Moving Pictures is always one of them, but the two that I've been listening to kind of off and on lately were Signals, which is my favorite Sonic Rush record. Like, sonically it's my favorite, and Hold Your Fire. I like that
Man,
record a
that's a
lot
good
too.
one.
It's
That's a really good one.
like I love Time Stand Still and all that stuff.
Time.
I love
How
that
great is
period
that
of it.
video? How great
Oh,
is
it's so great.
it?
You can see
Legendary.
Neil's like left foot clave going.
Dude, that's great. So John, I am dude, this is really Drunk Uncle Radio today.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, baby. John, I'm going to probably assume that because we recorded something off that record that you were listening to Roll the Bones. What was the last Rush record you listened to?
2112.
No shit. Look at this guy.
Yeah, I really wanted to delve in, and this has been a couple of weeks ago. I just really wanted to dig into the proggy shit, and well, that's right in the thick of it. So
yeah. Man, and dude, let's talk about that. And I've gotten a lot of shit off this channel. If you're watching it from the channel, I'm a drum channel, and I have a hard time when I have to watch all these over the top prog guys, and it's all these over the top prog dudes that were obviously influenced by Rush, and they forgot to write a good song. That even at Rush's proggiest, it's still a good fucking song. It's like, I was thinking about this a lot driving home from work yesterday. It's like they wrote songs that needed virtuoso playing instead of the inverse of that, where you come from virtuoso playing and looking for an excuse
where
to
you
play
need
a
to be a
song.
virtuoso player. Yeah.
Right. And that's like, cause even at 2112, would you say that's the proggiest thing that they've done, Adam?
Oh, I'd say some of the proggiest stuff they did would probably have to be, oh my God, maybe some of the stuff on, no, it'd have to be Hemispheres. Sorry. That's
Okay. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
But even again, it's still good fucking songs. It always felt like the thing that they did was like, yeah, they played in 7 all the time, but it never felt that like they just sat down and was like, hey guys, let's fucking play in 7. It always felt like an organic 7.
It was a jam.
It was a thing like this riff that I wrote just happened to be in 5/4.
Yeah, and to me, whenever they kind of like progressed or whatever, whenever they moved out of that sort of like kind of deep prog sound and they started getting into synthesizers and they started getting into this more kind of like digital age and sort of embracing that. I mean, what kind of touches on like we were talking about on that episode, where we were talking about selling out, a lot of the people that hate the 80s sound, would probably be like, well, it's kind of a sellout sound, or it's kind of this, like catering to that. But it's like, I mean, yeah, you owe your fan base something, but they also don't. They still owe it to themselves to do whatever they want to do. And if what they want to do is try to write like really catchy, kind of more polished, well, not polished, I guess, in the
sense of like pop form,
in the sense of pop form, like a kind of a brighter sound, a little more straightforward. If that's how they feel like they want to progress and that's where they want to move their art, I mean, that's not selling out. That's moving your art in the direction you want it to go. And it's, if you want to call it selling out or whatever, that's on you. That's not on them. They can do whatever they want. It's their art, And
but see, the thing is, for me,
that's why I always really like that sound.
Well, see, I didn't feel like that they were like, it didn't feel like they were sitting in an office being like, hey guys, how can we sell more records? Let's play.
No, exactly. That's the thing. Like, they're just like, we want to embrace these new sounds. We want to embrace, like, we want to be on the cusp of this thing. Like, there's all these new synthesizers, these sequencers, there's all these things we can do.
Electronic drums, like,
Yeah, especially Getty and Neil, it's like, we want to embrace these new things. How can we make this a part of our art and use it to push it into this new thing we want to try? And yeah, a lot of people hate it and they'll be like, well, this doesn't sound like 2112. This doesn't sound like it. It's like, no, but why should it? They're doing something else.
It wasn't like it still didn't sound like Rush.
It's still Rush.
Man, that documentary, man, I love Zakk Wylde. Man, I fucking love him. And I loved him, Y2K. But those cats bear him, like Zakk Wylde's like, greatest bass player in the world's playing so fucking keyboards now. Like, yeah, man, you're fucking welcome.
Dude, if I hear New World Man or I hear Time Stand Still, I don't for a second go like, oh, is this Madonna?
Yeah.
Is this Mariah Carey? No, it's fucking Rush. And you can tell right away it's Rush. It's just, it just sounds a little different.
And that's so interesting about them is they were able to evolve and they kept everybody. You know, like, man, Metallica tried to evolve and pissed off half their fucking fan base. How many bands have tried to evolve, and Rush was able to evolve consistently?
Oh yeah, they still have all those
everybody.
fans. They're just like, well, I just slightly don't prefer that.
It's like Zappa fans. They're that fan base is a little bit like Zappa fans. Like, you have the Zappa freaks. Like, a Zappa freak is the guy or the cats that love like 70s and back, which where it was more like Freak Out, Plastic People. But then you have like the people who really like Zappa, and I always call them like the Juilliard Zappa guys. When Zappa started getting, because pre-70s Zappa Freak Out, that's Zappa taking bar band cats and trying to get them to play this elevated compositional approach. And then Zappa was like, I could just go hire Juilliard guys and write anything I fucking
I could write
to.
St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast.
Yeah,
and
I can write.
play it.
I can just write Black Page and they'll fucking do it. And then there's those cats, and then there's those people who like from 80s on where he got a little, and Zappa kind of got a little poppy when you think about like
Bobby Brown,
Bobby Brown, right? And Rush has those subgroups, don't you think, Adam? Or like people are like, I like 70s proggy as shit, and then you have cats like, I like 80s new wavy sounding Rush. It isn't like they don't like the things that are outside of that.
Yeah,
but that fan base is kind of that same thing, right?
They'll embrace the band for its entirety, but they have like their section,
their preference, right? Because man, I've talked to Rush fans that think like they like don't even know that like Presto exists.
Yeah,
like old heads, like you know, like your drunk uncle, like you're fucking, like, you know, like your drunk uncle. My Uncle Timmy didn't know Presto was a thing.
Watch, it's got bunnies on it.
Was that like after Permanent Waves?
What is it? That ain't Power Windows.
That ain't Power Windows at all. My last record that I listened to, and it's because Red Sector A is one of my all-time favorite fucking songs, and it was on Show of Hands, is fucking Grace Under Pressure. Man, that record's so good. And is that, would you say that's the beginning of that second era of Rush?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that came after, is that after Moving Pictures?
That was right before. Oh, yeah.
Is it before or after?
It's after. Grace Under Pressure and then Power Windows.
Love Power Windows too. Man, I love those 80s records. They're so fucking good. So look, man, today is January 7th, and, you know, we lost a giant. I said this on the video that I did watching Danny Carey and Les Claypool play Anthem, that 2020 had no shot at being cool because Neil was gone. And I don't want to turn this into a sad thing because I don't think he'd want that. Let's talk about the fucking professor, and let's talk about the greatest composer of drums, Adam Jones. If you're going to turn on to a young head and they don't know what Rush is, what is this? And they're a drummer. What is the song that you're going to give them to be like, hey, young man?
Oh, one that could be like palatable in the sense of like, it's like radio cool.
Right.
But one of Neil's greatest compositions. That would probably be, I think, it's in between YYZ.
Okay.
Or The Spirit of Radio. That's one of that ride pattern.
That's the one. The 1 and a 2 and a 4 and a, yeah. That's the like, if you're as a drummer and you want to invoke Neil, you do that ride pattern. You do that, and it's all over it. It's just one of his hooks. 1 and a 2 and a, yeah. Oh, it's the best.
The one, yeah.
So I'm just going to go easy, man. I would give him Tom Sawyer. Like, it's perfect. Those drum fills are fucking perfect. They're so, I've said it on this channel many times, and I'll say it till the day I die. He was the Mozart of drums. He was the greatest composer of drums. You can strip off everything, vocals, guitars, bass, and you can listen to just his drum part.
I'm gonna jump on you there. I'm gonna agree. I think I would say Tom Sawyer as well, if for no other reason than it is so visible. It is so out there. It is such a big part. When you think when your layman thinks Rush, that is probably going to be one of the first things that comes into their field of view or their periphery is that song. And the fact that it has, like you said, it's got all of the various of elements of Rush boiled down into one tune. It has all the proggy stuff. It has the really hard stuff. It has the really complicated through composed instrumental stuff, the drum set composition like you're talking about. And so, yeah, I'll jump the gun on you and say, I completely agree. It's Tom Sawyer.
Jimmy, give it to me.
For me, yeah, for me, it was definitely Tom Sawyer. Like, it's the one that, I can sit and picture in my head and hear it. And, that like the combination of the way it works with the other parts, with the guitar, with the synth, with the bass, especially the bass, because it's such an iconic bass part too. Like that, like Tom Sawyer and, is one of the first things I can think of when I think of like, well, what are the first things I remember, like the drums really standing out and the bass really standing out. It was like, I think the first thing I can remember with bass really standing out is probably, Chic, like Good Times or that I can remember hearing on the radio and be like, oh, what's that? And the other one would be My Generation and Tom Sawyer. Those are the ones I can remember that. And with drums, it's always
Roundabout.
Yeah, Roundabout. And with drums, it's always Tom Sawyer. That's the first one I can think of when I really pay attention to the drums. I was like, what is that guy doing? Like, it's a part, and you can tell it's a part. And that's one where you can get into the conversation. Who's the greatest drummer of all time? That's subjective. Nobody will ever agree.
I will never say it out loud.
Yeah. It's like nobody could ever agree on that because there's so many different styles and there's so many different flows. And it's just like, well, who does this? Who does that? There probably is no greatest. That's existential. You're talking about existential discussion and that just floats around up in the ethers. It's almost not even worth discussing. But like, as far as like the great part writing and great composition, like for a specific purpose for that band. Yeah. Tom Sawyer, Neil Peart. I don't know who else I'd even think about,
And as musicians, we're all here trying to get better and do better as artists. And this man, fuck. I'm not going to break down because this is a fucking beautiful story. Neil Peart is known as one of the greatest drummers in the fucking world. And he decided in the last third of his life that I'm going to go take fucking drum lessons and I'm going to switch up everything about the way that I play. I'm going to play a different grip. I'm going to play a different drum setup. And that is it's the epitome of artistry that Neil Peart went to Freddie Gruber and said, I want to get better. Like, if you're sitting at the house and if you think you're fucking good enough, then you need to keep your shit in the fucking case because you ain't. Because if Neil Peart decided, like, what era are we talking when he goes to Freddie, Adam?
It's like right before Test for Echo.
97,
right after Counterparts. So I think he met with him in like 94, 95.
Okay, and his first record that we know about is what
Test for Echo is right after.
No. The first Neil record is what year?
Oh, sorry, that was late 1974 when they did Fly By Night.
This man is 25 years in.
Mm-hmm.
And all he has to do is pick drumsticks up and he gets on the cover of Modern Drummer magazine and he decides to go take lessons and changes. And man, his feel changed from there on.
I actually have it on the clipboard here.
Right there, John, give us the clipboard segment, baby.
So it's funny. Once he actually reported that he struggled to play the earlier stuff because his technique had gotten so much better. And he had gotten to the point where it was hard for him. It was almost like, I think, a little cringe inducing for him, which, you know, if you look back and you cringe at any part of your life, it just means you've grown as a person. So good on him. But yeah, it was he totally said in interviews publicly that it was harder for him to play the old stuff after he'd gotten better about that.
What else you got on that clipboard?
Well, I have a couple of little facts here before we get all wrapped up for our toast and for what the people have really been waiting for. Slate Dump performing Rush with our man Adam Jones playing bass and singing Mr. Geddy Lee's parts.
Goddamn right.
So also on the clipboard, I'll run down this fast. These are bullet points, and so I don't want to spend too much fun on them. They're just little teasers. This is actually a really cool point. They had a habit, and Adam, you have to back me up here and tell me if I'm completely off base in my research. They are not the kind of band that goes into the studio with more material than they intended to record, which is a big time rarity, especially in the rock and roll world where the songs tend to be simple. And so you write a shitload, you go in there, you pound out which hooks are going to work for you, what seems to be jiving in that room with those people on that day. They did not do that. They said, why would we go in with 20 songs and pick 12? What are the other 8 just bullshit? What is that? That's just
Dude, Jimmy.
There's literally no unreleased gems.
Yeah, so they
go ahead, Jimmy. But real quick, because I've got a follow up.
I was going to say, it's like you're always like, we have 7 songs. This record will be 42 minutes long and 7 songs. That is a Rush record.
Yeah.
That's
it. So next point. Unless did you have a retort you wanted to pop in on there, Steve?
Mine was the first time that I ever because I'm not comparing myself to them, but I had never. When the records I'd made before the band I was in with Jimmy and John, I'd never done that. And like, I remember us recording songs and being like, well, this is a song we're going to like release. Right. And they didn't. It's like, why the fuck did we spend all this fucking time on this goddamn song and not release the damn thing? I think that's genius.
So one small point here, and this comes back on what we were talking about, I think last episode or one before that. Neil Peart hated the movie Whiplash.
Yeah.
Good, because that
totally against
music, that movie sucks.
He believed that there should not be any bludgeoning or blood in jazz drumming. He thought that was absolute bullcrap. And well, I haven't seen the movie, but from everything you all have said, I completely agree with you and him. I
want you to watch that, Jimmy. Go ahead.
I might just.
No, that stupid fucking movie. If the first time that dude threw something at me, he's getting a fist to the fucking mouth.
Yeah. Well, not even past that. I love the clipboard that always spins us out into other stuff, and I love it. The thing that I hated the most was obviously, Jimmy, that stuff. Where we come from, that shit ain't fucking flying. The thing that I hated the most about it was they didn't show you that playing music is fun.
Yeah.
Every part of that movie was him being a fucking miserable shithead.
They made it it's so pretentious. It's like what it's all supposed to be about, the struggle and the breakdown. Like you have a drill sergeant, like it's all about tearing yourself down and building yourself up. No, like for me,
you ain't going to war, motherfucker.
Yeah, to me, like Rush is like the perfect personification of this whole thing where or if not perfect, like a great personification of like what I think an art is like, you're always chasing the dragon, right? And to me, chasing the dragon is asking questions. And if you like to talk about Neil, like changing his technique and all that, if you think you have all the answers, you're never going to ask questions. You're just going to talk and you're just going to show and whatever. Rush was always developing and changing, retaining a little bit of themselves, but always chasing something, always kind of chasing a dragon, always asking questions. And to me, that's as much of a personification of one's art as I could ask of anybody. Like what's more artistic than that?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Give us another clipboard.
I have one more point on the clipboard for the day. And this is actually fun, talking about how Adam got into how he started with musical instruments and how Rush was sort of the inspiration for him from changing from guitar to bass. Geddy initially wanted to be a guitar player. He was playing in a basement, a basement garage band with some people, and the bass player's mom said, "You can't play in your band anymore." I'm sure I'm missing some nuance there, but that's the gist of it. And so they said, "All right, well, now you're going to be the bass player, Getty." And he was like, "I don't want to be the bass player." And then they said, "Well, tough shit, you're going to be the bass player." Again, I'm sure I'm missing some nuance. He didn't have a bass, so he borrowed some money from his mother. I believe it was $30 to buy his first bass. And he said because what was it, the quote here? He fell in love with bass because of the whole thing. Well, nobody wants to be a bass player, but he did. And so that's an interesting parallel to how Adam got into it. And me too.
Yeah, me also. It was just like, I play a little bit of guitar, but it was like nobody wanted to play this thing, but I thought that low sounding thing sounded really fucking cool. Yeah. Like, what's that? Why does nobody want to play it? This thing's
right. That's a missed opportunity.
It's the most important part of the band.
The whole band,
as a drummer,
the rhythm and the harmony, man. That is the most important part of the band.
If you're watching this on Junkdrummer TV, you've heard me say it multiple times. The guitar player and the singer, that's what your mom knows about. But people who know, the bass player is the most important part of the band because they are the thing that worries about rhythm and melody at the same time.
There are only two people in the band in our format that actually have to know the song: the lead singer and the bass player. Everybody else can bullshit their way through it.
I've played a bunch of shows with Jimmy Lykens where he was the only guy that knew the songs.
And to Getty's credit, man, playing bass and singing in general is fucking hard.
People don't realize that.
Like if you're in Nashville, and it's always the thing. Like I'm sure we'll talk about it sometime. But one of the biggest pieces of advice is I could ever give to anybody who wants to do something like move to Nashville is, if you can't sing, learn to sing a little. And if you don't know how to sing harmonies, fucking learn.
Yeah.
The singing bass player is like a tradition. You got to just do it. You got to sing. But playing bass and singing is hard.
It's because you're playing you're responsible for two different melodies at the same time.
Yeah, you're playing a single part and then you're singing another part. Especially if you're singing a harmony, you're playing a part and then you're having to not. You're thinking of the melody, but you're thinking of the harmony.
And the first part that you're playing is literally, as we just discussed, the most important part in the whole daggone band.
It's the link. It's the link between the singer and the drums.
Well, it's like a singer trying to play a really intricate guitar solo at the same time.
Yeah. And for Getty to do all that stuff, to play as well as he does and to sing is very difficult. I'm sure it's a lot of shedding with oneself until it becomes second nature.
Can you name two bass players that played more difficult bass parts and more difficult singing parts than Chris Squire and Geddy Lee?
Les Claypool.
I don't know if the singing parts are really difficult. The playing parts are definitely
really difficult.
Yeah,
you're right. The singing might have just been weird ass Les Claypool. That's what was left over after he invested energy in bass playing.
And that is a double, what do you call it?
Teaser.
Double teaser, because in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about Primus, baby.
Primus sucks.
Oh, this podcast sucks. So, Adam Jones, wrap us up, baby.
Well, just in celebration of all things Neil, today, this week, this month, this year, I'd wanted to cover this song for a long time because it's one of my very favorites from the entire catalog.
And some of his best lyrics.
And some of Neil's best lyrics. Mm-hmm. It is some of Alex's most spirited guitar playing, I think, in his solo. And just how much flow there is in the chorus and everything. But as a whole, this song always jumped out to me off of this album as one of the very best, I think. And as I learned, I think it's one of Alex's favorites as well. And it just seemed like a very fitting tribute to the Professor. So this is us playing Ghost of a Chance, and I have poured myself a nice little pour of scotch in order of in honor of Neil and his love for the Macallan. I can't afford the Macallan, but this is a cool thing that I can't pronounce. What do you guys got?
Evan Williams, baby.
There you go. John?
Very well. I am holding a glass of Willet Pot Still.
There you go. Jim?
I'm holding a glass of Carter Stanley juice, which is vodka.
Yeah, buddy. Neil Peart, thank you for everything. Alex and Getty, thank you. Thank you. And here is our cover of Ghost of a Chance. Thank you, fellas.
Cheers, boys.
Ghost of a drink.
Choices we made, all the stages we passed through, all the roles we played. For so many different directions our separate paths might have turned. With every door that we opened, every bridge that we burned, somehow we find each other through all that masquerade. Somehow we found each other, somehow we have stayed in a state of grace. I don't believe in destiny or the guiding hand of fate. I don't believe in forever, love as a mystical state. I don't believe in the stars or the planets or angels watching from afar. I believe there's a ghost of a chance we can find someone to love and make it last. And make it last. Like a million little crossroads through the back streets of youth. Each time we turn a new corner, tiny moment of truth. For so many different connections our separate paths might have made. Through every door that we opened, every game we played. And somehow we find each other through all that masquerade. Somehow we found each other, somehow we have stayed in a state of grace. I don't believe in destiny or the guiding hand of fate. I don't believe in forever, love as a mystical state. I don't believe in the stars or the planets or angels watching from afar. But I believe there's a ghost of a chance we can find someone to love and make it last. And make it last. Oh, we'll make it last. planets or angels watching from above. I believe there's a ghost of a chance we can find someone to love. I don't believe in the stars or the planets or angels watching from above. I believe there's a ghost of a chance we can find someone to love and make it last. Oh, we'll make it last. Just before we end here, I wanted to say something about this wonderful new book from the great folks at Fantunes, who I'm honored to work with. And they worked with the band for a long time. But this great book that comes out next week, I think it's the 11th that it comes out, is a collection of Neil's actual quotes from writings in his many books. And they work directly through management to get his blessing on everything. And this has turned out to be, with Neil passing, sadly, this has turned out to be quite the collection of thoughts directly from him, and they hit really hard. And these great illustrations in here it's really heartwarming. So I got my advance copy yesterday and can't say enough about it. So go get you one.